Hello, it's Scott Manley here with episode 29 of Xenonauts, and we open with the finishing of the construction of the quantum laboratory in our China base. We now have room for 15 more scientists, at least 15 more who are prepared to work under Dr. Snidely in his quest to defeat the aliens technologically. Some of these candidates are not fond of the notion of working with Dr. Snidely, but when they see his power glove and his Google Glass, they are instantly convinced that this is the place for them to exercise their craft. And speaking of craft, our Marauder fleet is really starting to create some dominance in the skies, easily taking down anything that can be thrown at it at this time. It's literally getting to the point where I am just auto-resolving most of the battles because I know that the Marauders are going to completely outclass any of the alien spacecraft. The only thing I have to be careful of is when I have a trio of older aircraft, Corsairs and Foxtrots. They can take down a carrier, but they will not do it without taking serious damage to their structure. If that happens at the start of a wave, then I really need to do the battle manually, but if it's at the end of the wave, I can afford to just take the damage and have them repaired after the return to base. I'm also airstriking every target at this time because I pretty much have established that I've got enough cash to be going on ahead with. The only reasons to be running ground missions now are to acquire technology or potentially to test technology. Speaking of which, the alien fusion reactor is a large circular construction used to power the larger extraterrestrial capsule ships. It consists of a central aluminium core and a toroidal outer ring that produces powerful magnetic field to contain the fusion reaction and the 2.2 billion Celsius temperatures that accompany it. The reactor is not actually fueled directly by aluminium. The aluminium is used to power the energy fields needed to smash together the deuterium nuclei and generate fusion, a process that itself emits a vast amount of energy. The aluminium just acts as a starter motor for the process. As deuterium is freely available and not required in large quantities, this allows a weight of aluminium to release vastly more energy than it itself contains. The limiting factor is the intricacy of the design. The fusion reactor is much more advanced and would take far longer to build than a pure aluminium reactor. It is therefore ideal for larger alien vessels which have vast power demands but are sufficiently important to warrant the use of such a valuable device. We have built a miniaturized fusion reactor in our laboratory using techniques learned from studying the alien design. Shrinking the reactor has caused some loss of efficiency, but relative to its size, no larger than a car engine, it generates at least 20 times more power than anything previously built. It actually puts out almost as much energy as our base reactor. In any case, the ability to obtain vastly increased amounts of power from our existing energy stores is likely to lead to further technological advance. Speaking of which, I can now study fusion explosives, evaluating their potential to replace our grenades, missiles, and rockets. It seems that every time I discover an alien power source, I discover a way to make it explode. Okay, we have 15 new volunteers at our Asian base. They will be assigned to the mag weaponry project, which has already had excellent progress. The sooner it's finished though, the sooner we can upgrade. Now, only 3 days after the previous wave of UFOs, we get another serious wave of UFOs. I think they are starting to come faster and faster as we approach the end game. I don't know if you know, but internally they have a ticker that tracks the invasion progress, and it goes up with time, but it also goes up faster if the aliens are flying around or if they complete missions. And as it gets higher, the aliens get tougher. Ah, Dr. Snidely, I see you have some new guns for us. As improving our plasma technology to the point where it surpassed that of the aliens would be virtually impossible, new ideas were needed. They arrived in the form of old ideas. Mag weapons are electromagnetic coil guns that combine the remarkable properties of alien materials with our existing knowledge of ballistic weapons. The idea behind a Gauss gun has been around for over a century and consists of a series of electromagnets firing sequentially, accelerating a projectile along the barrel of the weapon to deadly speeds. The parallels with alien plasma weaponry should be obvious, but while the plasma technology uses the electromagnets to acceleration as a means to an end, a coil gun uses it as a means to itself. The technology can be adapted from existing plasma weapons design and has some significant advantages. For example, an energy projectile does mostly thermal damage and can be partially absorbed or redirected by a number of factors, atmospheric conditions included. A spot of rain will not offer much protection against a metal pellet travelling at 5 times the speed of sound. Mag weaponry prototypes have been built in pistol, shotgun, rifle and precision arrangements, each one small enough to be carried by an infantryman, but still capable of delivering a pellet of alien alloy at hypersonic speeds. They are almost certainly the most powerful terrestrial infantry weapons that will ever exist. Pushing muzzle velocity any higher would raise air resistance highly enough to explosively ignite the air behind the projectile, likely killing the soldier firing the weapon. It seems we are now limited by the composition of our atmosphere rather than by our technology. Well, that's much appreciated, and yeah, the first thing I want you to investigate is making these things bigger, because I want to mount these on tanks and aircrafts ideally. I just need to actually select the correct base. Further evolution of our mag weapon designs, producing both rapid fire weapons that can be used to basically murder more aliens. And yes, our engineers now get access to the pistol, carbine, rifle and precision. Once again, the carbine really being a shotgun, thereby irritating gun nerds everywhere. Meanwhile, the aliens continue their invasion unaware of the magnificent weaponry which I have unlocked and will surely be using against them in the near future. At least when I finish building this Predator assault armor and the Marauders. Anyway, the wave is over. We return all aircraft to base, nuke all crash sites and perhaps perform some housekeeping as we prepare for the production of our first mag weapon. We're going to start building a couple of rifles. Given that rifles are generic, they will be useful. We'll be able to hand those off to key troopers to make sure that they are able to support the Spice team. Of course, training will have to be in the field. Much of the explosive power of a conventional two-stage thermonuclear bomb comes from the initial fission explosion that ignites the fusion reaction, rather than the fusion reaction itself. Unfortunately, the initial fission explosion also causes the lethal radioactive fallout that can linger for decades afterwards. Pure fusion explosives are smaller, cleaner, and more deadly still. Only a commander with minimal attachment to his infantry would issue them with a short-range thermonuclear weapon, but fusion micro-explosives are perfectly viable battlefield weapons. They are extremely powerful and can be made small enough that the user would not be caught in the blast of their own weapon, whilst the clean reaction means they can be used freely in enemy-friendly territory without fear of radioactive contamination. All that is required for a pure fusion explosive is a burst of energy that is sufficiently powerful to ignite a fusion between deuterium and tritium in the warhead. Low-grade selenium contains enough energy to do this without any of the side effects of a fission bomb, allowing us to develop pure fusion rockets for your men that are significantly more powerful than the previous plasma explosives. However, please ensure that your men use the darkened glasses and visors provided. Whilst I accept they are not particularly fashionable, I doubt catastrophic retinal burns will be considered particularly attractive either. Pure fusion explosives are rather simple to scale up, making it easy to produce air-to-air variants for interceptors to use. We are upgrading our aircraft munitions to the new fusion missile and fusion torpedoes as we speak. These fusion weapons inflict more damage than the plasma warheads they replace, but otherwise operate in a similar manner. The yield of the warheads is actually rather small compared to what we could achieve. The fusion missile is approximately 0.5 kilotons and the torpedo 2 kilotons, but we have not designed these weapons for nuclear-style indiscriminate destruction. They borrow from the design of heat warheads on our avalanche missiles, focusing the explosion into a jet of high-velocity particles designed to pierce the armour of UFO hulls. To generate this effect, both weapons are fitted with a dense tungsten core that sits just in front of the warhead. When detonation occurs, the core is immediately vaporized and the resulting spear of tungsten particles are propelled forwards at hypersonic speeds. This bombardment equipment is capable of causing significant damage by itself, but it also fractures the heat-resistant outermost layer of the armour and leaves the UFO more vulnerable to the immense heat generated by the fusion reaction occurring in the warhead. An extremely effective design, if I say so myself. Well, thanks for that. Air-to-air nuclear missiles, which were actually a thing. Now we're going to send our team off to interrogate the Praetor. I feel that we are closing in on the end game. We have a few more things to research, but the aliens aren't stopping, and we have to give our scientists time to do the work. More and more carriers per wave now. But yes, they did in fact test air-to-air nuclear missiles, and there's a very famous video of a team of soldiers on the ground. They were officers, in fact, standing on the ground 10,000 feet below a 10 kiloton air-to-air nuclear weapon. And, you know, they has the flash, and then they look up, and yeah, then a few seconds later we hear the giant bang. I guess it's good for them that the air shielded them, and not only that, but it because of the heat released, it would have convected upwards and carried all the fallout upwards as well. Anyway, we're now really starting to deploy plasma weapons to our strike team, so figure it's good to take them out on a test run. While most of them have lasers, Renata has the plasma caster, and this historic first test is quite successful if you ask me. Of course, the Scimitar tank crew are quite used to this by now. Although this is the first mission where we've had the tank running the plasma weapon, which wasn't indoors, so I guess they need to test that as well. It's very important to be thorough, which is why Renata decides to take another stab, or blast, or hail of plasma at more of these androns. And third test, oh, did not in fact kill it this time. Well, good thing we have those old-fashioned laser-type weapons. In a rush to enter the carrier, a couple of Harridans decide to come in and surprise us. All the same, we still apply plasma liberally, and they are found to be decimated by it. Actually, I am completely misusing that word. To decimate means to kill 10%, which isn't that impressive since I'm regularly killing 100%. We now have half of our strike team set up as spice troopers, although only one of them has a plasma weapon. All the others have ye olde school laser weapons, but they're pretty effective nevertheless. And there's Renata getting kill number 5 as they're storming the bridge. Of course, the thing you have to be careful of when you're training teams is you want to make sure that everybody gets a crack at the aliens. It's very easy to let the spice troopers steal the show and get all the skill points. So Hajnal Safar gets up close with a plasma shotgun thingy. Plasma carbine, but it's really a shotgun. Anyway, yeah, we completely stormed that thing. No fatalities. Catalan got a little bit injured, but you know what? The team continued on. They went for that strike in, I don't know, Turkey or wherever that is. My geography is not perfect. It might be Greece, actually. Pardon me. But ultimately, it was just a place for us to get a bit more cash. Now, yeah, mag pistol production is finished. I have stopped building Marauders now. I believe that I have enough of them. So the Caribbean is now turning itself over to build weapons. Really, it became obvious that you should move the science bases, move the research bases out into the periphery and leave your central base focusing on manufacturing, and then you save a lot of money on transport. It's not a huge amount of money, but it can sometimes make the difference. Anyway, these guys are building mag precision sniper rifles. And yeah, Hajnal is going to upgrade from having a plasma shotgun to a mag rifle. You can see the ammunition style is completely different. So we're going to have a few of these. These are actually heavier. They're rifles. The rifles are heavier than the shotguns. And you can of course see the eye protection that is now built into the wolf armor. Anyway, having stopped producing Marauders because they cost a ton of money, I decide that what I'm going to do is split up the teams. So I have 3 Marauders in Asia and 3 in the US. I can take away 1 from each and assign them to Australia, because a team of 2 Marauders is actually pretty effective against most targets. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to make 3 squadrons of 2 Marauders and a single squadron of 3 Marauders, which is going to be based in North Africa. North Africa is pretty central and in fact can dispatch their Marauders to almost anywhere in the world anyway, but now I have squadrons in all bases. And 3 days later, yes, we have more hostiles, more UFOs spreading their way across the map. Perhaps they're looking for the perfect beat. Who knows? It is interesting that they all have numbers, so we can see how many UFOs we've shot down. So we've shot down almost 200. I don't think we've let that many get away. We've been pretty darn effective. I'm not sure if there's a really good air power mod which would add pilot experience. That'd be kind of nice to have pilot experience and little X's on the side for every UFO that they have shot down. Give them some skills, give them some training, give them some names even, and have little funerals for those guys when they get shot down. Anyway, we send the Shrike team out to one of the sites. We finally have our answers, Commander. These creatures are biologically immortal, immune to aging, but certainly not to violent injury. Our captive is evidently terrified by the possibility of death and proved exceptionally compliant during the interrogation. The Praetors are an ancient race that developed hyperspace technology millions of years ago. Their history was unremarkable until they encountered the Cesians. The Cesians of old had settled their home system, but did not possess the hyperdrive technology needed to travel beyond it. What they did possess, however, was the power of telepathy, along with several other latent psionic abilities. It proved their undoing. Craving the powers for themselves, the Praetors subjugated the Cesians and studied them until they identified the genetic material responsible. They improved this genetic material and granted themselves extraordinary psionic powers. They became a race of intergalactic tyrants, seeking out and enslaving alien life in endless pursuit of improvements, for example, biological immortality extracted from the civilians. The useful species were retained genetically, resequenced to ensure submission and servitude. This is the fate planned for us. Our enemies will toy with us. The invasion is just a test. The High Praetor measures our progress from the bridge of the enormous alien mothership orbiting our planet. Without him, the fleet will collapse. But then the extraterrestrials would simply jump in a new fleet. There would be no end. At best, we would have the choice between extinction or subjugation. Neither much appeals. The rules must change, Commander. I have an idea. Just give me time to develop it. Time's what you need. There are people dying every day. We need this dealt with as quickly as possible. Okay, so we've unlocked Operation Endgame, but I'm not going to research it because I don't know if that'll trigger like an endgame state. Instead, I think the Valkyrie assault boat, which will let me carry more troops into battle, that will be appropriate since we will probably want to bring the Valkyrie to the last mission to make sure that we can bring enough crew to deal with whatever the aliens have planned for us on the final mission. But of course, this mission is a whole lot easier because, hey, it's your bog standard ground assault mission and this team is exceptionally well versed in this. Once again, we have Lewis pretending to be Louise so he can join the Spice team. I think he's the only dude that regularly works as a Spice trooper due to his high accuracy and, well, just not being injured when there's nobody else available, to be honest. I mean, it doesn't matter what gender the characters have, they seem to have equal skills. It just seems that in this game, the women are far better at not dying. And let's face it, not dying in an XCOM type game is a very rare skill, a very useful skill to have, because the longer you stay alive, the better you get, the more likely you are to kick alien butt and be noticed when you actually do die. The Shrike team immediately caught sight of the UFO and make a beeline for it. However, I send my scimitar around the other route because it doesn't actually fit, and so we need to send it around on a scouting mission, which means more like, can it find a way through without crashing into the landscape? Remember, this is going to be the first field test of the mag rifles. Hopefully they will be impressive, but of course we're not taking any chances. Mia sees a target and applies lasers. Sophia finishes it off, but the aliens catch sight of my tank and start hitting it with plenty of firepower. I think were it not for the Armoured Warfare mod, this tank would not have made it through the mission because it does take a lot of fire. Although it can dish it out and destroy the scenery. That is one of the fun things, is as the game has gone on, we've had more and more of the scenery leveled as we've progressed. So yeah, first test of the mag rifle, burst fire, close range, and dead Andron. We've got most of the Spice team here ready to start taking down the aliens as we entered the ship. And we're getting more kills from plasma weapons. Inga Popova pops over and shoots the Andron in the head with her plasma pistol. And the Scimitar's plasma cannon gets in on the fun. Mia performing her signature shooting them in the back end move, even although she has a scatter laser. This one proves to be actually surprisingly tough. Gets off a couple of shots before is finished off by Juliet with a laser pistol. The Scimitar is playing hide and seek with a Harridan, and yeah, you can see it has taken a lot of damage and probably would have been destroyed were it not for the Armoured Warfare mod. And the mag rifle gets another successful test from Hajnal. Lewis suppressing the locals. Sophia finishing one of them off. And Luna demonstrating that scatter lasers work at point blank just as well as a shotgun. So yes, Lewis only getting one kill, proving that he's no match for Renata when it comes to using a plasma caster. Anyway, I'll see you in the next episode. Until then, I'm Scott Manley. Fly safe.